welcome to the first episode of Audio Discourse. Apparently, that's what we have agreed to call it now. I'm your host, Rush, and with me are three very interesting hosts. Well, not hosts, co-hosts of my podcast. First is the founder and the owner of Antdroid Audio. Ant-Man, how are you doing?
Hello.
There you go. Are you having fun? 9 o'clock in the morning?
This is great. I got my coffee. I'm good.
God. All right. Well, second, you might know him as a mod of Crinacle server, a longtime friend of Crinacle. If you don't see him banning plebs on Crinacle server, you will see him banning animus from real life from the dinner table. Here we have, you might know him as Leno, or I call him as Pencil. Pencil, how are you doing?
Very good.
What time is it right now in Singapore?
12:46 a.m.
So glad you can stay awake from this. And last but not least, you know him from his Head5 posts as a Toranku reviews, the most famous Singaporean impressionist. You know him as Torque or Toranku, and I know him as Corn. How are you doing, Corn?
Hey everyone, what's going on?
Nothing's going on. So if you want to read an Ant-Man and Corn's review on the Dawn, both of you actually have your written review published on Ant-Man's website, which is Android Audio. Is it just Android Audio? It's android.net. You can go read their review on the site if you want to know their in-depth thoughts on that. And actually, Pencil, you don't have a written review, so why don't I just go to you first? How good is Dawn really?
Dawn is something to challenge the market from what I see, from what I hear. There are a lot of IEMs that are good, but they usually have a very striking flaw, and that can be a big deal breaker for some people, or in fact a lot of people. So Dawn manages to be a good all-rounder, and not have a jarring flaw like a lot of others. But it has flaws. It has flaws, but hopefully they are not deal breaker for some people, but they can be. And it's different approach from a lot of IEMs out there, because most IEMs do not have a very clean sub bass or bass boost. They're usually very bloaty, muddy. So this is a pretty new approach to having a clean bass and still good.
Obviously, from the frequency response chart, it's compared very well against the 12T. And you and Korn actually went to the same audio store to compare them side by side. So tell me, is it better than 12T? I don't need your answer, just yes or no.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Anthony, you wrote on your review that I have the feeling that you don't think it's better than the 12T. And what do you think about that when it comes to that comparison, Ant-Man?
I think they sound tonality-wise very similar. I think the major difference between the 12T and the Dawn is more in the partially technicalities but partially how bass response of the 12T sounds over the Dawn. I think the 12T has a little bit more of a natural sound to it. It's got a little bit longer decay and just feels more like you like a subwoofer, but it still has its own issues, but I feel like it sounds more realistic than the Dawn.
Like, does it though? Like, I mean, you had your 12T, like you reviewed your 12T before Dawn, and you got it you got your Dawn the day after you sent your 12T out. I'm not going to say your impression is wrong.
Yeah,
but I'm
that's true.
Just saying that it's but do you have anything to add, Corn? again, like I think you share the same opinion on with Penso on this, that it kind of, and you did tell me in private that it kind of really blows 12T out of the water. Is that so of your opinion?
Well, I don't think it does blow 12T out of the water. Like, when it comes to certain aspects of the Dawn, there's some things that I do prefer U12T over the Dawn. For example, I do prefer that slight warmth in the U12T, in comparison to the Dawn's. The Dawn does sound a little sterile at sometimes, even though it's a huge bass, but the overall tonality, the aspect, the warmth of the 12T is quite alluring when compared to the Dawn. So that's something I would take over the Dawn.
So is that what I'm hearing? Is that most of us are really comparing, the tonality of 12T. Like tonality is kind of like a big topic, like for us right now, because all three of you point on the tonality of the Dawn, and Anthony really points out like the technical ability of the 12T over the Dawn. Is that something that you agree with?
I do find that 12T has a small edge over the Dawn in terms of technicalities, but in terms of tonal balance, I guess it's more of what I'm looking for, where on some days I do one more warmth, where on some days I'll do one less warmth. Where the Dawn does have better upper mid-range harmonics compared to the 12T, where the 12T can sound a bit veiled at times, but 12T does bring a stronger punch to the table, a more exciting listen, if you will.
And now I do like to bring it back at how Ken mentioned that it is a very competitive price point for the market, because like currently like it's it compares very well against the 12T, as you all said, and it's just in terms of MSRP, the Dawn it is only $1,400 versus the 12T being $2,000 in America. And I'm saying like I'm seeing these kind of like these two IEMs trading blows against each other. So obviously, if you don't care about the price, you're saying they're kind of equal. Now, let's say let's go to you again, Pencil. Like once you factoring in the $600 price point, advantages of the 12T over the Dawn worth that $600 to you?
Well, it depends what you're looking for. So like Con added some of the differences, so I would like to state my differences for me. Yeah, the base of the 12T is better. It's not by a big margin, but it is better. The mid vocals, the mid range, like what Con say, though yes, it's warm, but to me that's not really a big thing. It's more of the lower treble, or the edge that the Dawn has over 12T is the treble response is smoother for the lower end. However, the 12T has an edge over Dawn. It has more extension. It sparkles. Certain instruments and certain harmonics will be fuller, if you will. And most part of the technicalities, they're close, but yes, a 12T is slightly better for certain parts. So for that $600 that you'll be paying extra, if you want the treble extension, if you want a bass, there you go. But if these two are not a concern, then I don't see the big deal with it. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what about you, Anthony? I mean, it's $600. You can get a lot of Tri-Fi for that money.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to, I think, personal preference. One thing I didn't mention earlier was when I listened to the U12T, and this is coming from when I had it for about a month. One thing I noticed about the lower treble is, to me, it sounds a little, it's smooth, but it sounds a little boring, I guess is the right word. At least compared to, like, say, the VX or the Viento. And I don't necessarily hear that as much with the Dawn. I think the Dawn has just a little bit more lower treble presence to it, which, gives it just enough excitement that makes it a little bit more fun to listen to than the U12T, where the U12T is kind of boring sounding, but it sounds right to me. So I guess that doesn't really answer your question, but for $600 more, I personally would spend that much to get the U12T, but that's my personal preference. I think the Dawn, at its $13.99 US price is a pretty good deal. You do lose out on some of the features of some of the more expensive IEMs though.
Yes or no? Better than 12T for $600?
Shit. I would say better than U12T for $600 extra. No.
No, better than 12T, just for cheaper and better than 12T. Yes or no? Tell me.
Well, for me, it's more of what am I looking for? Where, I mean, yeah, I mean it's a cliche like response, but I think it really does matter in terms of personal preference here. Where the Dawn is better suited for genres that you don't need like such a dynamic bass going on. Where the U12T it does shine better with bassier tracks, and the U12T does have lesser upper mids and lower treble, where the Dawn kind of compensates back. So the Dawn does sound more correct. The Dawn does sound more correct in the overall, like, let's say 20 Hz to 10,000 Hz spectrum. Whereas the U12T is more flawed in the perhaps 3K to 8K region, where it's a bit muted. Yeah, so I guess it does depend on what you're looking for, where 12T also does have like this, what I call the TR spike, where 64 has the TR tweeter for the U12T, where yes, this huge resonance that occurs at around 15 to 16,000 Hz. There's quite a characteristic of the TR driver. And this spike is interesting where it provides a amount of this sparkle that can sometimes render symbols a bit splashy, whereas with the Dawn it's completely absent with this sparkle aspect. So but in terms of go on.
Go ahead.
Oh, as in but if you're talking about if I have $2,000, I would just buy the U12T. Personal opinion.
Man, that's not, see, I asked a yes or no question. I was hoping all three of you said that, 12T is pretty much a should buy because we have released the Dawn. But, obviously that's not the answer. And I think, all three of you have somewhat like similar opinion comparing the two IEMs. And I think that, we get two very, like, they kind of trade blows when Dawn being $600 cheaper. So I think it's safe to say, for all of you, just kind of agree that, for the price, I mean, it's very good for the price for, being $600 cheaper and trading below, a punch above his weight. I hate using that word. But how about this? Does it punch it below his weight? Recently, Sony just lowered the price of M9 to $1,000. Now, I know these two sound very different, right? But if you're a newcomer to this IEM Portify thing, if you want a all-rounder IEM that's costing around $1,500 to $1,000, those two would actually be in your consideration. So, it doesn't hurt the M9. He's out of this conversation. Why don't I go to, Ken again? Pencil again, since you love the M9.
Well, I
does
Dawn
buy this $400 over M9?
Sorry?
You justify Dawn costing $400 over M9.
Okay. M9 is a better all-rounder if you like warmth, because it is really heavy warmth IEM, and it does not have very heavy bass. So if you prefer warmth over bass and you prefer more treble extension, fuller sounding instruments of the higher frequencies, then M9 will take the cake. And especially at a lower price point, is for people who are starting out or people who are looking for mid-fi. That's a better deal.
You just call M9 mid-fi?
Yeah. yeah, it is. It is mid-fi. I mean, it is good mid-fi. There's nothing wrong with it.
Inside of you, So I think there's a lot of talk about tonality, and obviously I don't give a shit about tonality. So what about, on the technical side? How do they compare M9 versus Dawn? So
very close. Okay, the thing about M9 is for so much warmth, it is very technical because most warm IEMs are crap at technicalities, and a lot of technicalities come from the treble. They tune it such a way that it's not warm, it is cold sounding, or it's sharp. So you simply get more detail. So for M9, I think it's one of the best warm sounding IEM that is really technical. So that's the deal. If you like warmth, there's pretty much not much options at the price point for a good technicality all rounder. Whereas Dawn would be on the bass. Yeah, like you just want more bass. However, M9 has very, very good bass texture, even though it has lesser perceived bass.
Oh yeah, I personally don't like M9, and I call it the worst IEM I would ever buy if I were to buy it. You will never see it in my household. Corn, you think pretty well of the M9. You actually pointed out as one of your IEMs that you like probably more than Z1R. Would you if somebody come, I'm a grand one like an all rounder. I listen to all genre of music. Which one do you pick, huh?
Well, I'm more of an M9 guy over the Dawn, honestly. Like the M9, yeah, it does carry a kind of, it is a warm tonality, but at the same time, it does not sacrifice the detail of the treble, where the treble does still extend fully. Whereas with the Dawn, the Dawn is a bit lacking in the upper treble, where, like, let's say you hit a cymbal, the M9 captures the shimmer perfectly, the kind of sound, whereas with the Dawn, it just kind of fades out very fast and easily. But in terms of an overall, like, which one I prefer, which one I would buy, like, if M9 and Dawn were the same price, I would buy M9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just personal preference here. Like, yeah.
And I think you guys touch a lot on the tonality side, and I think that is a very big talking point when it comes to Dawn, because obviously it's tuned by Crinacle himself, the god of tuning. Well, probably not, but it is obviously very pleasant, and that's like one of the strengths. But what about the contrast? And out of the four of us, the other VX owner is actually here, and I hope he's not falling asleep yet. Would you, Anthony, trade that tonality for technicality on a Dawn? Compare your own VX, which is obviously a very technical heavy IEM that sacrifice a lot on the tonality side. How do you compare those two?
I'm surprised you admitted that just now.
Don't admit anything. VX is the best IEM ever. If you don't have it, you're stupid.
Yeah, this is a tough question. I definitely agree that the Dawn has much better tonality, and it's pretty close to what I consider pretty good to near perfect tonality. And a VX obviously has some issues, kind of in that lower treble area. There's a dip, and that causes some music to sound pretty harsh because it has a big rise between 7 and 9K, and that could cause sibilance in some modern pop songs and poorly recorded music, and could make stuff sound kind of weird. The Dawn doesn't have that issue, but the main reason why I would pick the VX is because the Dawn, it has this, I guess everything in it sounds very forward, and I don't know that's because it has flat dynamics or flatter dynamics, or if soundstage is kind of reduced or what, but everything in it sounds like it's kind of shooting into your ear and doesn't have a lot of doesn't have the best imaging, it doesn't have the greatest depth. And so VX has all of that, It doesn't have like the biggest, widest soundstage, but it has a lot of layering and lots of depth, which I really prefer for listening to jazz music, classical music, a lot of post rock I listen to. So stuff like that matters to me, and Dawn doesn't give me that type of those type of technical qualities which I'm looking for.
Corn, you obviously hate VX because you like to give me shit about it. You want to give some thoughts on that? How well they compare? Is that something you are willing to sacrifice when it comes to technicality versus tonality?
Well, on the VX, well, actually, I do prefer the ASL over the VX, or like the Gemini over the VX. But honestly, the difference between VX and Gemini, to me, is not very far. Where the Gemini does have a slightly less, I would say, cold tonality. Like on the graph, it does show a bit lesser.
How about this? Let's change the argument. Would you prefer Gemini over Dawn?
Oh wow, that's a tough question.
Well, okay, maybe while you think about it, let me add
Okay.
to that, because I think the part about layering and depth was missed out earlier. So one of the weakness of Dawn is the depth layering ability. Things seem to be on a single plane. It seems to be an intended tuning, and if we talk about the earlier candidates, we talk about IER-M9, 12T, and VX or Gemini. All of them will have better layering and depth than a Dawn, which is very good for orchestra. Okay, back to you, Con.
All right. I gather some of my thoughts, and if you give me a Gemini versus a Dawn to pick from, to only have one IEM for the rest of my life, let's just say whether it's down to Dawn and the Gemini, I'll pick the Gemini actually. Where like I do find while Gemini has a colored tonality like the VX also is, but in terms of the technical ability, like if you know me, I've been writing about it, and I do find that the technical level of the Gemini or the ASL is very high. It is, simply put, to me at least, one of the highest, one of the best IEMs out there for this technical ability as well as sound state. It does fall a bit flat sometimes. I do hear the Dawn as having a very big sound. Everything is just very big. Everything's in front of your face, and well, I wouldn't say the Dawn is congested, but it is kind of odd if you're coming from, let's say, the Gemini that I put them next AP against each other, where the Gemini does in fact layer better in terms of depth, in terms of width, whereas the Dawn does sound more intimate, more forward. It just sounds like everything's loud in some sense, which I'm not sure is whether it's a intention of the tuning or just how the sound acoustics are designed to or designed for. So in terms of overall preference, yes, like with the U12T and with the M9, I would still go for the Gemini over the Dawn. But that's not to say that Dawn is bad.
You don't have to excuse yourself. Did I just hear that QTC is the best IEM manufacturer in the world, making two of the best IEM in the game? That's all I want to hear, and I got it out of you. And that's fine, and that will be the end of the podcast. Be sure, guys, buy the QTC. I'm just kidding. So I think it's very interesting that you point out, what I feel from personal, experience too, that there is some kind of staging issue. Like if you're very used to like the wide staging, maybe on the 12T, maybe on Z1R, maybe on VX, that you don't really get that feel. Like I feel like, as you point out, Dawn doesn't really have that depth of staging. So like again, like Anthony pointed that out in his review too, that it might be an all-rounder, but it's may not be the best for some music. So is that something that bothers you a lot, Anthony, when it comes to that, like the staging problem? Well, like it just really lacks, like it feels in your head instead of outside.
I think the Dawn is good for like some rock and pop music, which is already kind of made for that type of tuning or I guess lack of depth. with compressed sound, compressed dynamics and whatnot. But for like, yeah, classical music where you have a lot of orchestra or brass or whatnot,
Those are boomer music.
you want, yeah, you want to hear the different layers so you can see where instruments are coming from or hear where instruments are coming from, and that makes, gives you that dynamic breadth of sound, which it's lacking a little bit on the Dawn.
And Ken, you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to like how the driver, the tuning should set up. So and I talked to you a little bit about the staging problems. Do you think the staging problem is it like a tuning issue? Is that something that we can't get away with, or is it just the the driver configuration or the lack of like a vent or something like that? What could what contributes to the staging problem on a Dawn pencil?
The staging, okay, so for me, the wideness wasn't the issue. I think it is not exactly in your face in terms of width. I don't feel like I don't feel too bad, but the depth is the real issue, where with a full orchestra, the depth of the orchestra is simply very squished, and that can be a deal breaker if you listen to such genres. So it is a technicality issue, which is why Dawn did not. I mean, it's pretty much not scoring full marks against VX or Gemini for that matter, because this layering is a big issue for certain genres.
And go ahead.
Yes, and you're talking about whether it's driver, it's tuning. It's more of the tuning than the drivers, because I have definitely heard way lesser drivers and the like M9, even Viento, and they definitely do not have layering issues. So it's more of the company tuning it.
Okay.
Not the drivers. Not the drivers. It's not the drivers in this case. Not a lighting.
So you're saying the stage issue is more like a FR issue rather than anything else. And Korn, do you think that can you kind of is that intended? Like you talked to Crin before when it comes to his method of tuning. Is that intended, or is that just like a side effect that he has to like live with? When it comes to the tone.
Yeah. Okay. So how the Dawn is designed is they have, I think, around 2 lows and 2 lower mids, and then they have 2 kind of tweeter as well as 2 ESTs. So that's 8 drivers, right? Okay. So the bass driver that they use, it is in the same it shares the same ball as the lower mid driver. So the bass driver is a 3800 from Sony, while the lower mid is a 3300. While the 2389D, which is a dual 2389, is used to do the 2K to 10K response. I mean to 20K, sorry. And then the ESTs are playing at super low, it wouldn't even matter if they're on or not. Like if you don't wire them, like I doubt they don't have a sizable change in like frequency response. Okay, I'm going back to the issue.
I would like to
sorry.
address that. Yeah, electrical it does not work that way. If you remove the EST, the FR will completely change because the load is taken out. The load is different, so it's not possible to just take out.
I'm not saying that you can just remove them and it'll be the same. I'm saying that it might as well not be there. It can be tuned the same way as like it currently is.
Right.
Yeah, and going back to that, personally, I suspect it has more to do with both the FR as well as how the drivers are put together. Where in terms of FR, I do find the 1 to 2.5K region a bit too forward. And when this region is very forward, it tends to bring especially vocals very close to the ear. And another thing I suspect is that since the 3300 bass driver as well as the 3800 low mid driver are playing both in the same ball, it might affect separation a little negatively, but it's just speculation for now. So I'm not really sure, but it is an issue I hear audibly.
So is this like a trade-off that he like from tuning the IEM? Like, is this a trade-off, the lack of depth, that it's like, if can you keep the same tuning while giving it more stage? Is that something that's doable?
Well,
on in terms of FR?
well, perhaps Fearless would know better, but well,
You're saying they don't know better.
no, I'm not saying they don't know better. It's just that it might have been an oversight where I don't know, like it just feels like the collab is more focused on Crin himself tuning it, like just more of not actually tuning it with like his own hearing, but rather with his like so how it works was that he just feedbacks based on what Fearless provides the graph to him with. So he just comments like, okay, I want this area more, I want this area lesser, and Fearless sent him some graphs. The rigs were a bit different, so Crin was struggling to translate their rig over to his rig. And then when he got the final sample, he heard it, and then he just gave it a go. Yeah, so that's kind of how it was tuned, where Crin had quite a language barrier as well as a difference in measurement, where he might not be able to control these factors as much as he was hoping to in some sense.
Maybe she should have worked with an American company like Campfire Audio. I'm just kidding.
Hey, Corin, I have a question for you? I'm taking over a little bit here. I haven't listened to the other Fearless IEMs. I've only listened to one other one, and it also had some soundstage and layering issues. It was the S4. Do the other Fearless IEMs have similar issues or not?
Oh, yeah, now that you mention it, I really need to go to compare them again, but I think they do share a bit of that same staging issues, mainly with the S8 series, the S8F, the S8P, and the S8Z, where while they have okay with in terms of depth, in terms of that layering, like for the IEM, isn't very good in some sense.
So is that what I'm hearing? That is more of a Fearless issue than a tuning issue now? I don't know. Like again, like I don't want to turn it.
It's both. Like since Fearless tuned it along with Crinacle's green light.
Yeah. The thing is, I spoke with Crin. It seems that he does like this presentation. So he definitely I mean the even tuning back and forth with the graph. He got a pre-production unit. He got a prototype and so on. So he tested it. It's definitely he has to approve this. So this tuning is intended. I do not think that it is not intended. And when you go back to whether is it an FR issue, yes, it definitely is related to FR. But is it the sole contributor? I don't think so, because typically when we talk about just now, Con added on the ball. So when you have 3 balls and 4-way, is in this case, a lot of manufacturers may merge the two meets together. But in this case, when I measured separately, the base and the lower meets are merged. So like what Con said, that may lead to an imaging issue. However, for layering, it's typically more of upper mid treble onwards. So this whole region is affected more of the tuning rather than the type of driver. So like it's like the tube, the tube length, the tube inner diameter.
So it's more like execution rather than like the type of drivers.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think it means like a more of an overall kind of thing. Like you have driver choice, you have dampening, you have the tubes, you have the resistors, you have the capacitors, and all of this plays a big factor to the resulting sound when combined together.
And without going into too much, and you did say that, like, a lot of the Fearless IEM do have similar problems when it comes to stage issue. Is that not right?
Yeah, I mean the other Fearless I really like is the S8Z. Like it is quite average in terms of technicalities. Okay, not average, sorry. It is good in terms of technical level, but going back again, like it is not like mind-blowingly good, and I'm always looking for something mind-blowingly good because I'm super jaded and I'm a huge critic. I've really unrealistic expectations, and yeah, there's always something that companies can always improve in certain areas or aspects, especially with how they like their in-house sound. Right, with Fearless case, it's more of a V-shape, a very big sound that just you at the spot.
Well, yeah, maybe next collaboration, Crinacle can do with QDC. Maybe they can make an IEM with Stage. But without going into too much, I think we have a lot of talk about tonality, which I really don't care about because nobody cares about tone, anyways. But a lot of people that's like the big selling point of Dawn, right? And people say, "Oh, this Pleasant is a good all-rounder," but you know what? They're also an IEM that's very similar in price. But a very little different tuning, but it's also like praised for its tonality. Made from a boutique manufacturer from Korea, which I also don't like very much. Ant-Man, how did you enjoy your Viento R against the Dawn?
Well, so I bought the Universal Viento R, and so the Viento R is it's made by a Korean company called Hidition.
No shilling, no shilling.
I'm not going to shill. And it has 4 switches. So, or sorry, 2 switches with 4 tunings, and each tuning kind of, changes either the bass or mid-range. And so the closest switch setting would be probably the B setting, which kind of bumps the sub bass up. So it's kind of in line with the Dawn, at least from a measurement standpoint, but doesn't have as much warmth. I think they're both very good. They both have very good tonality, but slightly different presentation. The Dawn's a little bit more warm. It's closer to, like, say, the Harman target. The Viento is more closer to, say, the Edemotic diffuse field target. And I actually prefer the Viento tonality a little bit more. And on top of that, it has better technicalities as well. It actually has probably one of the best coherency and one of the best imaging I've ever heard on any IEM. And I haven't heard everything like you guys have, but of the ones I've actually had to put my ears on, it's probably the most coherent and one of the top imaging products I've tried. And soundstage isn't an issue on that one as well. And I listen to a lot of I prefer to listen to it with jazz and classical music and bluegrass, country music, and that's all acoustic type stuff, and that's where it really shines. And that's something that Dawn I feel struggles at. But at the same time, Dawn is a lot better for like rock music, pop genres, and stuff like that, where the Viento doesn't have that warmth characteristic that the Dawn does, where that can kind of drive more of electric guitars and whatnot.
Just a follow-up question, right? Just a yes or no. Are you on top of a ladder right now?
I wish.
Okay, apparently you're not. Anybody got anything to add on this Viento argument? I feel like it's more of like a whether you prefer a Harman or a DF feel, but like when it comes to tonality, anybody wants to chime in on?
Yeah, I have to chime in.
Go ahead.
You heard how I preferred the M9, the ASL and Gemini, as well as the U12T over the Dawn, which I would buy. When it comes to the Viento, I would buy the Dawn over the Viento. Okay, the problem with Dawn is that the problem with Viento is that I listen to too much heavy metal. I listen to a lot of heavy metal, a fair bit of pop nowadays.
You mean listen to baby metal? Is that?
No, they are bad then. Yeah. Anyway, the Dawn does sound better with rock music and with metal music, whereas the Viento sounds a bit too lean. So I guess it also depends on the genres you listen to, where the Dawn is a better all-rounder in my opinion. like to handle as many genres as possible. Like the Dawn does most genres well for me. It is just that the Viento is quite lean sounding, which might not work with everything. So I would definitely get the Dawn over the Viento if I have to buy one.
Oh wow, you actually would buy it. Well, any thoughts on the technicality sides? I know it's not the strength when it comes to these two IEMs.
Okay, I would say that the Viento does outperform the Dawn in terms of technical ability, but in this case, again, I would still get the Dawn over the Viento because to me, tone is still quite an important factor. Like, okay, in the M9, in the Gemini, and in the U12T, I did say that the technical level was better than the Dawn, but when it comes to the Viento, I don't think I can sacrifice that amount of the amount of tonality for that kind of technical ability.
Fair enough. Pencil, anything to add when it comes to comparing these two? I think
Yeah. So the thing about Viento, it like what Ant-Man says, it comes with 4 tuning. So the bass tuning is thin, and it does not work with quite a bit of genre. It's not all rounder. So sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it does not work with everything as much as Dawn would work better all around. But the fact that Viento has more tuning, it can work with more genres if you use the other tuning. However, with the second switch or the mid switch up, you lose technicalities. So to make it work for a genre, you have to lose technicality. So that is one major point we have to note. And the tone, I don't think is very far away, but I prefer the tone of Dawn. But then again, Viento does have this same advantage like all the other previous candidates. It has more treble extension, and with the treble extension, like I mentioned, treble fuller. So if you have a lot of high frequency instrument, it will definitely be a deal breaker.
What I'm hearing is that it's more of a preference when it comes to the tuning. Like depends on what genre of music if you guys listen to.
Okay, but for
right?
this similar to Con, I will pick Dawn anytime. Unlike the previous candidates where there's still some struggle or it's coming close. This is outright no. I'll just outrightly take Dawn.
It's funny that and you pointed out that Dawn is better for pop music, and Ant-Man pointed out that Viento is better for orchestra and jazz. But I have from a very credible source that said Viento is perfect with K-pop and J-pops with a dash of Elton John. So am I here to trust your opinion or the most credible Viento source out there? But not the point. I think it's more of a preference if you between Dawn and Viento. Hearing from you guys when it comes to whether or not you prefer the DF tuning or more Harmon-like when it comes to this. But again, like we're going on this line of tonality again, and we all agree that Dawn is a very good all-rounder. And Ant-Man has pointed out, it's not good with orchestra, it's not good with jazz. What else is it not good for? Anybody?
Well, I mean, the big deal breaker is it has no dynamic driver bass, right? So.
Oh no, you're not. We're not talking about that. That's unfair.
All right. Yeah. Okay. To me, then it's a lack of treble extension. That is like I mentioned, all the other candidates that you pointed out earlier all have better treble extension, and treble extension does contribute to layering and depth.
Okay. And again, as somebody mentioned briefly, that the EST driver doesn't really do anything when it comes to when it's in the Dawn. And Crinacle himself famously mentioned that when it comes to execution, the EST driver doesn't really have any inherent advantage over BA tweeters, except for one example that probably nobody have heard of. So like, is this something that we can get away with? Like, would this be more attractive if it just be let's say hypothetically, right? And you said it's not doable when it comes to Dawn. Like you say, oh, you can't just take out the ESC driver. Let's say Fearless willing to re-engineer the whole thing. Let's just like, it's gonna be a 6BA, and it's gonna be like $1,000, so like more like M9, and it keeps 95%. Let's just, again, I'm not an engineer. I don't have an engineering degree like everybody else on the Discord.
Why not put it replace the 2 E-stats with 2BA, so it's an 8BA? I think that's
fine. Let it not have a hybrid meme. Let it be of 8BA. It's not a hybrid meme. They don't charge that hybrid premium. Costs $1,000 in line with like all of the Chi-Fi. Would that be a more attractive product for maybe not yourself, but more other people? Anybody?
Yeah. Yes, I would think so. I think if the 8BA, we're looking at the S8 series, and this is clearly a better S8 series.
I didn't want to hear that from you.
No, not the QDC, the Fearless S8 series.
How does it compare to the Moondrop S8? I haven't heard that one yet, but that's probably in the same price range.
Well, they're not actually.
We put it.
No, I'm saying if you drop it down to 8BA and make it $1,000, it'll be in the right price range.
Yeah, it'll be direct competitor against Moondrop S8. You're right.
Yeah,
Would
actually,
it be better than SA? Go ahead, Corn.
Yeah, actually, in retrospect, now that I think about it, like the Dawn and the S8 does share some similar kind of sound, where the upper mid range is quite forward and quite lean. For the Dawn, it's not really lean. So it's the I'll describe vocals as a little bit cold, but at the same time, it's not like sterile or dead either. Where the S8 and Dawn both share this kind of, in some sense, a colder tonality to female vocals that I sometimes would describe it as a bit like brighter or leaner sounding vocals. Yeah, and now that I think about it, they do share that same kind of forward upper mid kind of sound, and I can see where. And if you compare the S8 and Dawn like directly, I actually put them at I'll be hard pressed to choose like which one over which.
I mean, like that's like this theoretic argument about Dawn costing only $1,000 and not being an EST hybrid meme.
I will take Dawn over S8. S8 is too thin. It's too thin.
Yes, even at $1,400, that's a very big price tag. S8 is only like what, $600-$700? That's like half the price, man.
No, it's like if you're saying that if both are $1,000.
No, I'm not saying both are $1,000. You gotta think about the money. I'm like, well, no, we're not as everybody's rich as you, so twice the price right now. Would you still take Dawn over S8?
Yeah, I think I would. Or ultimately, still go with Dawn over S8 because the Dawn does have better sub bass, whereas the S8 sounds like it's a bit of a heretic thing to say, but I would like more mid bass and warmth of the S8.
Yeah, the S8 is too lean. It's too sharp. The balance is a bit broken. Certain instruments and certain vocals just sound too thin and sharp. It's the tonality is definitely poorer than Dawn, and the technicalities are not any better. So there's no reason why I'll take it.
Wait, to me, I'll actually say that the technical level of the S8 is actually in fact better than the Dawn, like in my opinion.
Okay.
Like the Dawn does sound a bit unfocused at times where let's say you have a trumpet blaring at you. Like the Dawn would portray in the sense that the trumpet is like very big, it's very intimate, very forward. But it doesn't like that sense of definition, that sense of like the sense of realism, whereas everything's in focus. It does sound like a bit unfocused, which is one of the gripes that I find with Dawn. And the S8 doesn't have such a big issue as far as I can remember.
And what I'm hearing from both of you is that, I think whether it be tonality and technicality wise, I think Dawn, when it compares to, a lot of the other chi-fi, and Dawn, like it or not, it is still, made in China. When it compared to, like, a lot of the domestic market in chi-fi, it does compare very well, regardless whether it be $1,000 or $1,400. But I think, I feel like when, Crin attached his name to an IEM, I think all four of us really expect a lot more from this IEM, than just your regular run-of-the-mill $1,000 chi-fi. But enough about chi-fi, because everybody knows that the only chi-fi company out there is QDC and nothing else. I did make you guys do a little fun project, and I linked Anthony that graph. If you want to show it on stream, is if everybody just go look at that graph right there. That's the final result. Again, let's say this. Like, I asked all three of my co-hosts to rate 4 IEMs that we brought up: the VX, U12T, Viento, and Dawn. You rate it from 1 to 10. 10 for the highest score, 0 to be like, none, on tonality and technicality. Now, these scores are weighted equally. And as you can see, to my surprise, these 4 IEM actually score very close against each other, and these are averaged out scores. Again, I don't agree with these scores, and I think you guys are all meaning the shit out of me. Why don't I go to Ant-Man first? Why, you explain your scores. I mean, what is this? When it comes to it, you did give the only IEM that you don't have is the U12T, Ant-Man. You gave it a 17, which is technically your favorite. What say you?
Yeah, I did, didn't I? Actually, I had the VX at 6, but then I changed my mind and made it 7, just so I could be a little bit different than everyone else.
Did not PayPal you.
So, yeah, I own the VX. It is probably the least correct tonality. I think I mentioned it earlier. It's got some, weird sounding kind of upper mid, lower treble area that kind of, depending on what you listen to, it can make it sound, pretty off. But technical wise, it's got, it's got pretty much everything I'd want from a technical standpoint. Yeah, the U12T, I did pick the highest, I guess. I didn't actually look at the scores when I did this, but I did find it's probably my pick for the best all-arounder. If you're looking for one top-of-the-line, $2,000 IEM or I guess over $1,000 IEM, that's the one that I would probably recommend to most people without really knowing, much about what they listen to or what they like. Only because I think it has, pretty easy to listen to tonality, and it's got good technical ability for its price range, or at least for that type of class anyway. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily the best at anything it does, but it's in the, in the talking points of being up there with the best. And then, yeah, Viento, I like its tonality and technical ability. I just bought the custom version this week, so that's coming soon, and I prefer that. It's not an all-arounder like was mentioned before. It's very geared towards specific music that I listen to. And then the Dawn, that is probably, from a tonality standpoint, the best all-arounder of this list. I mean, realistically, it's probably above the U12T. And then, like we mentioned before, it's probably the least technical of the 4 here, and that's mostly due to its depth and layering and dynamics.
Since you score, the 12T over VX, are you gonna take the gamble and get an A12T and risk the consistency to sell your VX?
No. What I did find out recently is Fur Audio, which is, I guess the family member of 64, starting his own company. They make modules that actually work with the U12T and U18 and the other models. And it actually one of the modules may end up being something that I may be interested in, because it's supposed to bring up the treble and lower the bass.
Put your 12T shilling, okay? This is not the 12T part.
Sorry.
You're supposed to say it's bad, and it's not good. Well, Pencil, what about you? You have your list, a more reasonable list, if you ask me. And you have them score very close against each other too. You want to explain that?
Yeah, they're very close after looking at the overall score. But so I ranked VX being the highest technicality and lowest in tonality, and it's the other way around for Dawn. Whereas U12T and Viento have lower score overall than both of them. So being an all-rounder for me, Dawn and VX are better considerations than Viento and 12T.
So are you saying like when it comes to your choice, like if you like for an all-rounder, if you value technicality over tonality, you will pick VX. But if you value tonality over technicality, you will pick Dawn. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Right, and that I think that does sound very fair, and I do like the fact that you do have 12T under VX because that is obviously the fact. Without going into too much, I think that's the two of our co-hosts. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody except for the troll here that have everything on 14.
No, I'm not. It's not trolling.
Tell me how you're not fucking trolling me.
Alright, okay. So while I was typing it, like I was giving VX a 6, 12T a 7, Viento a 6, and Dawn an 8 for tonality. Where to me, Dawn is the most solid in tonality, and the VX is a little bottlenecked in terms of the mid treble spike and in terms of the upper mids. But as you can see, the total score of them is all 14. But like as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, there's things that I would get the Dawn over, like for example the Viento, but also I'll get the VX and the 12T over the Dawn. So I guess this metric isn't super accurate of what I feel, but it is a nice exercise in seeing that all these IEMs are excellent IEMs. Like, don't get me wrong. Like if you're just starting in the IEM scene, you already wanted something really nice, just get any of the 4. And I do believe that these 4 are excellent IEMs. They won't disappoint anyone. Yeah, now that I look back at it, scoring a 14 consistently throughout the board, yeah, that's pretty damn good. Like I'm a super like critic. I don't do scores that easily. Like if you see at my list, it isn't any 9 at all. So I think I'm definitely more harsh than both Pencil and Anthony over here.
I just think you're a VX hater, and you need to like get over it. All right. I think it's more, it's definitely a very flawed scale, and I think a lot more people like obviously from knowing that we do prefer. Obviously, I prefer technicality over tonality, so I wouldn't weight those two equally. And obviously, Corn does does kind of weight them equal. He does like really harp on the tonality as well when it comes to how it sounds pleasant to him. Again, it's not a perfect scale, just to like maybe see how. But they in overall, like generally speaking, with your averages, it does like kind of be very like they are very close to each other. Like kind of like now you have everything pretty much like 40 some points. VX and U12T obviously 45, and Viento and Dawn at 44. But you do see that very big contrast between VX and Dawn. VX having 26 points on technicality, and Dawn having 26 points on tonality. And kind of U12T and Viento being like somewhat the in-betweensies when it comes to those two. But what I want to say, going up to the next point, when it comes to this problem, right? What I say is the 12T problem, where it's like, for $1,400, there's really nothing special about the Dawn, right? And you can relate the same argument into 12T, right? 12T for doing $2,000 or however much they cost, if you ask a dealer for how much money, there's really nothing special about the 12T for how much, like maybe $1,500, maybe $2K. And same thing with M9. There's nothing special about the M9. Is it like something that don't you kind of want, like a IEM that's like a all-rounder, but also have something special about it? Isn't that why you got the VX, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean that's why I have two of these four and not just one. For different purposes.
And and obviously Dawn isn't really like plays well with your genre of music, right? And that's why you pick Viento over Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick an all-arounder, just one IEM, Dawn would not be a bad choice at all.
No, it wouldn't. But you said you still would pick 12T, right? Because it's all around better. Again, $600 more expensive.
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Pencil? How about that? You love VX just as much as I do, right? Do you feel like at this like $1.5 grand range, isn't this just lack specialness? And like Dawn just kind of don't feel special to you. You just want something for your money. Don't you want something that you can feel special about?
I can't say I'm as big fan as you for QDC or for VX for that matter, but VX as an all-rounder, because it's so technically competent that a lot of people, not just me, when you just want the technicality and you don't mind the tonality, it is so awesome. But when we look at all-rounder, typically all-rounders don't have anything special. That's why they're all-rounders. So if there's something special, then they are not really all-rounder anymore.
I mean, yes, but don't you want something like you say you want all-rounder, but you still want something special?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
I would like that, which is why I pointed out earlier on the dynamic driver base, but we're not going there this podcast.
Right. What about you, Korn? You don't hate VX that much. But how about this all-rounder with a specialty argument to you? Like Dawn really doesn't really special to me, right? And you said it to yourself. It's
true.
Not
the Dawn is it's very good at being a jack of all trades, but it is to be in fact a master of none. Where at least the VX and U12, they do have an X factor to it, where they give you a reason to kind of buy the T. But for the Dawn, I think it takes a bit of an acquired taste in some sense in terms of tonality, where you really know what you want with the Dawn. It doesn't have anything special, but it is special in the sense that it is so solidly tuned in its tonality, in my opinion.
All right. I think that's very fair criticism. I think what we got out of this that we should all just buy VX instead. That was a joke. Not really. So like, how about this? Let's go down the list again. Who is this really for? I mean, all three of you really just said I really wouldn't buy Dawn. Like, it's not for you. You just all admitted that it's not for you, right? So at $1,400, and being an all-rounder with nothing really special, pretty above average or average when it comes to technicality, and very good in terms of tonality. Anthony, who do you think this is for? Like, who should buy this?
That's a good question. I think not everyone has a lot of money, and their first time buying a higher priced IEM, the Dawn would be a good safe bet for anyone who's afraid. I mean, this is also where I come from in the US. You can't go out and just demo anything you want. So a lot of times you have to blind buy. If you had to make a blind buy choice, the Dawn is a really good, first time over $1,000 IEM choice.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, just because it works for most genres really well. It may not be the best at anything, but it's a solid choice for everything.
It seems like you have something to add. Who is this for? I mean, you live in Singapore. Well, you live in Singapore, doxed. You get the demo IEMs. What about in your market? Like, people get to try different stuff, and if you get to, you don't have to. It's not a safe blind buy because you don't have to blind buy. Who is this for the Singaporean audience?
Well, does Pencil want to go first?
Pencil want to go first?
You go first.
Wow.
For me, in terms of audience, I'm a strong believer that the audience will find itself. Where
Who do you
when it
think?
comes,
Who do you think it should be?
when I think,
Yeah.
well, honestly, it's quite a difficult question to answer.
Like, no, who do you think would buy this? Like, why do you think they should buy it? Like, if I would ask you, hey, just sitting in an audio shop, what should I try? Why should I buy this? Like, who do you think it's for? I want something like.
Oh, I think the perfect person to buy this kind of items are for, like, let's say 30-year-old has a lot of money, doesn't know what to do, but wants a solid IEM that can perform. Yeah, then yes, something like Dawn would fit his criteria pretty well.
What about you, Pencil? Huh?
Okay,
people ask you about recommendations.
I think in this whole range, well, Dawn and Viento are closer in pricing, right? So the VX and the U12T will be quite a bit more expensive. So for people who are not too deep in a rabbit hole, or are not intending to spend beyond $2,000, that's what, and they wanna get something really solid. They want to have something that they can use for a long time. They want something that is good to reference against next purchase, that has to be better than this. Then I think Dawn will set a very good baseline foundation, because unlike Viento has actually more flaws than Dawn for me. So Dawn will be a solid choice for an all-rounder, for someone maybe starting out, who has a higher budget, or maybe not starting out but not too deep, and thinks that 1,400 will be a good price to spend on the transducer.
I think you're right, and I do agree with you. And what I personally feel that is, at $1,400, it is a very competitive price point. And I do feel like it's kind of like a one IEM person. Like, if you're not really, like, as Penzo would put it, is that if you're just starting out, or if you're just getting into this high end, like over kilobucks, over $1,000 IEM range, this is a very safe bet that that's good with most things. And I feel like if you just want, like, say, hey, I got $2,000 to, like, drop, and I want to have a portable audio setup. Well, you just get a Dawn and a $600 DAP, whatever you want, and that would be a very good, competent setup. That's probably good for a lot of things. Just most things. If you don't want to go any deeper than that, and I think it's a very good beginner IEM. And if you decide where you want to end, here's the Reddit trigger word. If you want to have an end game IEM, this can be your end game as well, because obviously it compares very well. Against the other 3 IEMs that we have on the board. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, like I mentioned just now, it's a good baseline. So getting Dawn will be good when you can use it to test against, to compare against others IEM. So like if it's not better than Dawn, why should you get it?
I think your baseline is a lot of people's ceilings when it comes to that point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with his point of it being a very good baseline. Like, to me, like, I can hear Dawn being a very strong reference IEM, and that was the intention behind the Dawn as well.
Anthony, anything to add?
I totally agree. It's a great baseline. It's a good reference for for everything.
Is that the point that we're having right now? The baseline IEM is $1,400. Is that again? Like, I feel like I have to, like, have some kind of, like, disclaimer when it comes to this, because I feel like we're kind of all, like, bad mouthing the IEM. It's actually really, really good. If you if you're just starting out, but, like, all 3 of us obviously have. All 4 of us, all 3 of you have, like, some, you have tested very expensive gear, and they obviously compare well, like, when it comes to, like, this comparison. Like, but I think, like, what if you were to compare Dawn against any other Chi-Fi that's not QTC, it would just blow them out of water, right? Everybody agrees when it comes to that, right?
Completely. Yeah. There's nothing you can
Right. Maybe Moondrop acid. Maybe.
Oh, Maybe. Is this the tri-fi to buy, Anthony? You are the tri-fi reviewer.
I said it's not close enough. It's good, but not close enough.
Okay. Anthony? Best tri-fi ever? Is that what it is? Best non-QDC tri-fi
Best
ever.
non-QDC one? Yeah, probably. I mean, I haven't listened to all the higher end tri-fi. So
Yeah, they're not that good. Come on, I'm wasting your time. Yeah, so I think that's fair. Anybody else have anything to add before we call it?
No, I've heard kilowatt tri-fi. Now there's nowhere close to Dawn.
Yeah, of course not, because it's tuned by the man.
except for VX.
All right. Of course, VX is good. This is what, if you get anything out of this podcast, you should just buy VX instead. I'm just kidding. It's not for everybody, and nobody should buy the VX. Yeah, I think this is it. Thanks for listening, and